Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt, man!
All right, episode 7 of Shirt Show. We're talking with Matt from Printavo in Chicago. Let's go!
Hey guys.
I feel like we've done this before.
I feel just like a month ago. I don't know. I learned some things. I got a little better lighting. I got built-in, no more battery dying. So should be better this time, hopefully.
Nice.
Cool.
Where are you right now?
I am at Sound and Fury, my little print shop I got.
It's awesome.
Hell yeah. A little better background than like children running around making a mess. So.
Were you doing printing today, or are you just hanging out there?
Hanging out was with my buddy Mike, who runs the day-to-day stuff, and was teaching him some Printavo shortcut stuff that I have been learning recently. So got in there and got him updated and went over some automation stuff with him and just kind of hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about the whole Printavo thing. What the hell happened with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, last time that we talked, I was running a shop. I loved it, honestly. I got nothing bad to say. I left on good terms. It just, the commute was killer, man. It was at 4 a.m. It took me an hour to get to work. And
that's right. We were talking about that.
Yeah. And then leaving, it was taking about 2 hours. So it was 3 hours a day just commuting, right? You add that up, it's 15 hours a week that I'm not with my girl. She's got 2 kids from previous marriage. I need that family time. I need to have other time. And I mean, you know what it's like running a shop. Clearly, you're there for 10 to 12 hours a day. You add that 3 extra hours a day on top of that, and it was just it wasn't the right fit for my lifestyle needs of having to have some time with the family, you know. And after that, you're brain dead. I got like maybe 2.5, 3 hours of being awake while I'm at home, tops. So that's just it's a recipe for a disaster eventually. So it didn't feel like that was the long-term answer. So once my heart had kind of come to that conclusion, it's an inevitability. And if you stick it out too long when you've already decided something like that, you got to make a change, right? Otherwise it can just build up and end up being bad. And everything was going great. The shop's still awesome. Second City Prints, big fan, obviously. Gonna still work with them a bit as like an advisor consultant on some stuff. They're still working on a massive expansion. They just finished. My last day was accepting 3 65-foot trailers of M&R equipment.
I was going to say, that's the real reason why you left, because they didn't want to get it, and you were like, screw you guys.
No, they got it. That was the hard part, actually, is they got like my dream wish list of equipment. And it's going to be insane. I designed the screen room, the entire flow in the process. They're doing a nice build out. It's going to be gorgeous. So I'm excited to still be able to go in there and work with them, see how it goes, keep working with them as they expand some more. They're going to be a powerhouse in the region for sure. But just talking with, I talked to Faring a lot, and then Bruce, of course, from Printavo. And we've talked about me possibly working with Printavo before I actually took the job at Second City. They're Chicago guys. I'm a Chicago guy. It just kind of made sense. And I kind of always just was like, no, but it does make sense. It makes the most sense.
So what's your role going to be there?
Senior customer success manager.
You made that roll up.
I made that roll up. So they're really focusing on keeping the users of the platform successful, right? And a lot of that just happens to be, are you using all the new rollouts that happen, seem like every other week, right? Are you using all the new rollouts? Are you integrating things correctly? Are you set up for success with Printavo in your shop?
So basically, you're going to be the guy to show them the print side of it, not necessarily the tech side of it. You can say
both.
This is how this works with this better, because a lot of those guys aren't necessarily printers.
Except for Bruce, none of them.
Right.
And I mean, I won't call out Bruce. I don't know how much printing he's actually done, but I mean, he did have a shop at one point. So yeah, I'm the only true printer in the bunch. I mean, I've only been with them for a week. They've all been virtual, right? Because obviously they're between offices when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So it's been a big Brady Bunch window of multiple people. But
Yeah, we talked to Bruce last week, and he was saying how he was going to do onboarding with everybody, and so yeah, we were expecting to talk to you about it.
Yeah, honestly, it's been awesome. But a lot of what I'm doing is, yes, helping out with getting the shops better with using Printavo, and then also working with the shops that want to have somebody even come out there and help them implement it in person.
I was just going to ask. I was going to say, so are you going to be doing that like in a Zoom call like we are right now? Or are you actually physically going to go to their shop? And if so, like, how are you going to do that? Especially, doing right now. Are you going to fly out there, or what are you going to do?
Right now, it's kind of, it's all going to be virtual. So Zoom calls, which they're already doing this. I'm just going to be joining the team. There's a couple people already doing it. But I'm going to end up likely to be like the main implementation person, especially when it comes to being in person. Right now, if a shop said we really want somebody in person, I'd go. I actually had to go get a COVID test 2 weeks ago. It was awful. They Q-tip way in there, and it's. I didn't know my brain was that large. I'm pretty sure they touched it. And then they have to double it up. Like the second one, then you're like, that was awful, but not that bad. They're like halfway done. You're like, shit. All right, this sucks.
They do both?
They do both, man. They do both. They have to get up in there, and it's like an inch and a half in for like 20 seconds, just wiggling it around.
You were actually just some random ass guy in an alley. You weren't actually getting it.
Yeah. It was weird when he paid me at the end. I was like, oh, well, like, all right.
You can pull your pants up now.
He was smiling, so I mean, I know that I did it right. Anyways, so I mean, I would go and just obviously have precautions, wear a mask, all that new post-COVID world stuff. But yeah, once we go back and it's a little bit safer, I will be definitely bouncing around every now and then to the shops that want to pay for that added bonus of having me come out there, get you implemented on using Printavo. And of course, while I'm there, if there's something I can do when it comes to like, I see your screen's breaking down, here's some tips and tricks that might help you out in the process too. Which obviously my job before working for Second City was 6 years with T&J Printing Supply. And that was what my gig was. It was going to shops and just kind of hanging out, but helping them get all their processes better. Find, like, if I walk in, like, that shouldn't be over there, it should be over there, you'll save X amount of time. It's like, oh my God, thank you. All that kind of fun little stuff that I'm super stoked to be able to not just be in one shop and do. I loved it at Second City, but the time was just a little bit too killer with everything. So that's what we're doing at Printavo, like, in a nutshell.
I feel like you have a good tool belt for like consulting and stuff like that, and like helping people in the shop and stuff. Are you going to try to do that as like a side thing, or are you going to like do that as like with Printavo? Because I feel like Bruce should charge for that shit. Like if you're going to go to a shop and like teach them stuff, it's kind of
right.
Like,
so I do have, Bruce and I talked about this, I still have my Marcotte LLC,
right.
Where I can still do some consulting. So I'm still going to do that, just obviously not on Printavo's time. So a lot of weekend type stuff for the most part with that. But at the same time, if I'm in a shop that they paid Printavo for me to go there and work with them, I'm also not going to be like, give me $50 and I'm going to help you out. No, I'm already there. You're already paying for Printavo to have me be paid to be there. I'm going to help them out. I'm not going to give them like you should use this brand, this thing. That's not fair, right? Like I would tell them like, hey, overall generalities, I'm not going to. That was one thing that I always hated. Like when I was a sales guy, I had to be like, yes, here is this ink. This is the one to use, right? When really there's like 10 different inks you can use that are going to work great. It's what do you like? Yeah. So I'll be very general of that kind of stuff. But I'm also, if I'm in a shop and I can help them out easily with something, I'm going to help them out with that. But consulting is definitely something that I don't plan on getting rid of. It's just, keeps it fun, you know?
I just feel like if you walk into a shop and you help them out with one thing, it's always that thing. And they're like, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And then you never leave. And then you're just like, I spent 8 hours talking to you about shit. So,
but that's, I think that's a smart move though, because, there's incredible value in that, you know. So you come out and let's say they're stuck on something and you go out to help them and you are at their shop, and then, hey, by the way, here, what's going on in our screen room? We're kind of stuck, and then you go and help out with that. I mean, then that's all the more value that Printavo is bringing. You know, I think that's really smart. I like it.
And that's really where I kind of want it to go, right? I would love it to be the point where I don't really do a whole lot of consulting because I'm already going to the shops that are paying for Printavo to come have me go implement their systems, and I can help their systems while I'm there too. I mean, obviously, but shops like, we're already entrenched with Shopworks, we're not going to make the switch. Can I get you on a Saturday? Yeah, I'll come by on a Saturday.
Right, that's a different thing.
I might mention you should think about eventually switching over to a different platform than Shopworks, right? But of course, I'm going to do whatever. I nerd out about this stuff. I definitely have found that, don't get me wrong, I love running a shop, but sometimes when you're sitting there trying to figure out a schedule of who's going to cover for so-and-so who called off, I just dream of being able to be in shops and look at the larger picture stuff, right? So I think this is a heck of a good opportunity for me. I think it does have a value add for Printavo. Hopefully, I'm a little biased. I like myself a little bit. So I think it has a bit of a value add. You know?
Bruce sees your schedule and he's like, why were you at ShireKong for 2 weeks? What was going on there?
Perfect, right? I mean, and that's awesome. That's the other thing is I'm going to be able to travel. When I was at TNJ, I was kind of stuck in my region. I couldn't really go outside of that unless it was for individual consulting. Now this opens up to be able to go visit different shops, different parts of the country, and get to nerd out with the print family that we're all in, right?
Yeah. So how much closer is, I guess, whenever they have a office to where you are now versus the old travel? I
mean, that's one of the other like linchpins to why I was like, yes, I need to do this. Is it's working remote, so I'll be working from home pretty much indefinitely.
So it's way more family time.
Way more, and that's a big thing. I mean, it might seem like whatever family time, but I care about my girls' kids like they're my own. They're not my own, right? We can't really move. We're going to move. We're moving from a condo now into a house, but have to stay near where they go to school, also where their dad is. So we're kind of stuck geographically in one area. COVID, I mean, kids might not go back to school full-time come fall, right? And so if my girl who owns her own little esthetician shop can't work because she's got to be there with the kids every day, well, then there goes her entire income, right? So me being able to work remote, they're 7 and 9. They're self-sustainable for the most part. I don't have to like change a diaper, right? But I got to make sure that I'm burning the house down. They're actually eating food. They're not eating just sugar the entire day.
Or fighting.
Or fist fighting, which the two of them together without a lot of friends besides, I mean, it's getting hectic. But
like
that's
the perfect setup.
A huge
dream job, really.
And that's kind of how I feel too. So when Bruce and I were talking, I was kind of like, all right, I think I kind of just stumbled into like a prime opportunity that feels right. So yeah, I jumped aboard. I spent a week in now. It was funny with the two other people. They had 3 people all starting at once. 2 others starting in customer care. No background in screen printing at all. So the first day is a lot of like doing this, right? With Bruce explaining screen printing. I'm just like, and trying not to be like, actually, Bruce, it's no, never mind.
Yeah.
But
talk shit about your boss.
Right. No, it's been great so far. It definitely, 2020 has been a weird year. I think for everybody, it goes an overall statement, but I'm stoked.
Did Second City pivot or something? Because weren't they dealing mostly with like bands and stuff? Like what are they getting into?
They didn't pivot. I got nothing but respect for the owner and the girl who runs the shop. That runs the shop and runs the company day-to-day stuff. All band merchandising. So they do a ton of fulfillment. So once touring stopped, which was obviously the main cash cow for the company, it just all went heavy fulfillment. And their sales staff and everything, they pushed hard. And fulfillment ended up going up a couple 100% year to date, even with COVID. So it went from, there was like a good 2-3 weeks where I had to lay everybody off and I was solo in the shop, like counting in shirts, burning screens, reclaiming screens. I had to teach myself how to use, they had 2 Anatols. I had never run Anatols before. I had to teach myself how to run. I mean, once you run an auto, you run an
auto.
They
basically run themselves.
Autos? Yeah, totally. And Anatols especially. I learned how to run a different press. I'm still more of a fan of some other presses better personally, but I like them. They're not bad. I learned how to run those presses and just ran the shop solo for a couple of weeks while it was still kind of slow. I mean, overnight, like I'm sure you guys saw, like the key just went off. Like you had tens of thousands of dollars or more in queue that just got canceled. So it was a little terrifying for a little bit, but they picked up on the fulfillment side and got heavy with fulfillment. So it went heavy fast.
How do they do the fulfillment there? Do they, with the bands, I know with tour, they were probably getting an order, printing it, and then shipping it to whatever venue or wherever it has to go. But with fulfillment, are they still just like do they do heavy in any DTG, or do they just like print in bulk and then shelve it and then pick?
Print in bulk and shelve it. They don't have any DTG right now. I think eventually that will shift a little bit. That was part of why the move was happening too, because they had two buildings across the street from each other. One was the print shop and the offices. The other one was all fulfillment. So they host the Shopify store. So a lot of these big name bands, like you go click merch and it redirects to a Second City hosted Shopify store, and they handle everything, the customer service, the pick and pack. Their YouTube clients were huge, especially during COVID. We were able to do some 10,000 piece plus orders they had pre-sales. So like 10,000 pieces sold in like a week, and print it, pick and pack, ship it all out the door.
That's definitely the way to do it, the pre-sale, if you can, you know, because printing and then, like you said, building, shelving it. I mean, you have to have space, of course.
And they do a lot of that too.
Yeah. It's like we started getting into it kind of even before Corona happened and stuff, but it was kind of like, how do we do it? You know, like before we were doing, where, like you said, you kind of get somebody you think is going to sell a ton of stuff, and then you print a couple bulk orders, put them on a shelf, and then you're picking them. And it's like, I feel like we crash and burn more times than we had like big successful runs. So I feel like we switched to more of like, we just print, like we do pre-sales, but the customer doesn't really know it's a pre-sale, and we just print like every Wednesday, like whoever that is, we'll print it, and then we pack and ship it the next day. That way we're not sitting on anything. We don't have a warehouse full of stuff. So I'm just kind of like in my own head trying to like research over like what's the best efficient way to do this without having a ton of shit on the shelf. So
you said every Wednesday, you mean like that? So if you had how many orders do you have though? So every Wednesday you're printing. So
that's the thing is like, yeah, we're not like crazy into fulfillment. We're not like, oh yeah, we have thousands of clients and stuff. Like I literally have like, 5 to 10 customers that like we almost hand selected to be like, we want to work with you. We want to do your store. And then they sell a lot of stuff. Like that's really the goal, is to find somebody who's going to sell a shitload of stuff. You don't want to be like, oh, this guy's kind of cool, but he sells like 4 shirts a week. It's like, it doesn't really work. So like we have a couple of these people that we do stuff for. And then, yeah, I just have literally on our calendar every week, it's already on there. Like Wednesday, these orders have to go out for the store. And then they're folding and bagging on like Thursday and Friday.
So I guess worst case scenario, somebody orders on a Thursday. They're going to wait maybe a week for it to ship.
They're going to wait until the next Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, but so it ships on the Thursday, and they're going to get it on Friday or the weekend, or let's say.
Right.
So maybe they're waiting 10 days. I think that's
most of the time with the post office, it's like, it's if it's first class, they're getting it in 2 to 5 days or something, and then if it's a priority pack, which a lot of it is, because like some of these people are getting hoodies and like shorts or whatever else, and if it's over 16 ounces, it's going priority, and they're going to get it in 2 days or 2 to 3 days or whatever. So I don't know, it's been working out really good so far. I mean, it's not like the Amazon model where, we definitely get people who email us and are like, what the hell, I ordered yesterday, I don't have it yet. And it's like, all right, well, this guy's orders print and ship in bulk once a week and ship it out. 99.9% of the time they're like, okay, cool, like happy to support so-and-so, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to,
I deal with that at Sound and Fury too, like the small amount of pick and pack. We've got a couple smaller customers we do that for. Second City's a whole different beast. I luckily didn't have to deal with any of that. He had an entire other department, and Stevie, who owns it and created it, it's a monster. I mean, he's got customer service people literally doing that. Like, I ordered it 3 hours ago. Where is it? And like, it's like, what? And from an efficiency standpoint, I'm going to rely on him that it was all efficient. But when you're running a shop and you see the same 7-color design come up 3 days after you finish doing 300 of them to do 12 more, you're just like, dude, what?
That's exactly, and that was my problem.
I would see the same 12 designs like clockwork every 3 or 4 days. And be like, all right, we'll just save the screens, obviously, because we're going to have to keep grabbing them. But then you end up having like 400 saved screens. Right. And you're like, all right, now I got to order 300 more screens that I have in the shop, or turn them and burn them. Which a lot of times we have. Well,
that was my problem, is I would print an order for somebody, and you would guess sizes or whatever, and then you'd sell out of the mediums, and then somebody would order like one medium, and you're like, well, shit, I'm not ready to reprint this yet. I don't want to refund them. So it's like, all right, let's print more shirts, print more mediums or something. It's just like, it's such a pain in the ass. And then you end up with a bunch of shirts left over that never sell. And it's just kind of like,
it is. I mean, the metrics of figuring out like, okay, maybe the first sale hits and you're like, oh, this is great. I'm going to double up on the next one, expecting to hit. But then what happens if like it was all the fans bought it first and they don't have any more fans now?
Right. They
Then
don't
it's
want
like,
to buy it
well,
anymore.
then that's it. Now you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is obviously how you charge for that. So if you like are upfront with the customer and let them know, like, hey, if we double down, it's gonna be this price point, and you get paid for the printing, maybe you're eating the space to have to store it, depending on how big your place is. That could suck.
Well, that's why I think like our model works good, because we're setting up the store for them. We're doing everything. All they have to do is fucking promote the store and collect. Like, literally nothing else. Like, they don't pay for anything up front. They don't do anything. They're just like, hey, store's going live. They sell like 200-300 items a week, and then we print them, ship them, pack them, everything, and then
Cut
like
them a check.
we're just like, hey, you get X amount per shirt. They're like, okay, cool. So it's, I mean, we're making good money and we don't have shit sitting around. So like, I don't know, it's just like a branch of the company we're starting to like look into. But like I said, I don't want to offer it to everybody. I just want to offer it to, select people. But it's kind of like,
are you using the same designs every week? So on that Wednesday, you're resetting up a job, or are you burning new screens?
yeah, resetting it up.
Okay.
So we are saving those screens, but it's not a ton of screens. I mean, most of the designs are like 1-2 color. So like one store has like 8 designs, and then another store has like 4 designs. So I have like a rack, basically. It just has their screens on it. But like I said, if we're setting it up once a week, it's not that big a deal to like save those screens. But
Now, do you guys do any DTG at all?
no.
Yeah,
That's one thing I'm thinking about. Like, I've never really wanted to get into it, but after we talked to, dude, I still can't say it. Cotton Factory.
No, it's so she said it's a cartoon and then Fabrique. So
No, I'm just going to say
without the
Cotton
R.
Factory. Yeah, it's Cotton Factory.
it's cartoon Fabrique.
And I hit them up too. I was like, well, what do you like? Do you really like this? And they were like, yeah, like get this one or whatever. And it's actually pretty cheap. And I'm like, fuck, I might actually like get it. And then just like, not necessarily put it right into production, but just be like, test it for a little while. And then some of these store items just
I mean, I'm kind of with Andy. At the same time, I'm not like.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't want it for quality.
Right?
I don't want it for the
money.
quality. I don't want it necessarily for money. It's just we get so many people that come into us and they're just like, hey, like it's specifically a digital print. Like, it's definitely not something you want to screen print. It's like a fucking picture of their grandma. You know what I mean? They're like, hey,
yeah,
I need 15 of these, and it's like.
Well, I think there's a way to like to meld them together though. Like if you have that one customer who's like, I'm not going to have that many. It's like, cool. Then your price point is this other price point, and it's going to be direct to garment options only. Otherwise, for fulfillment, it's going to be a higher price point to screen print it. I got a minimum I have to print to make it worth it, and then it's going to be a week or 2 weeks for fulfillments for whatever we get there. And if I get less than 8 pieces in that 2 weeks, I'm going to DTG those anyways.
Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to the fulfillment side, I think there is a way to like kind of go a hybrid method with that where it is economical and efficient. I hate DTG, standard DTG still. And the reason behind it, I don't even really know anymore, because half the time I feel, I'm like, damn, it's feeling better now. But the print purist in me is like, no, fuck that.
No,
right?
yeah, I know.
But at the same time, there's a lot of efficiencies in economics that make sense. I think when we go into more of an actual full hybrid scale, where you're dealing with like digital squeegee type stuff, once that whole new world kind of becomes the new era and the groundscape of what we're dealing with, I think it's even easier, right? Because then you can screen print and digital print, and it's easier to do the one-offs and save 2 or 3 screens than save 7 or 8.
Right.
So,
and that's the problem is like I'm learning and dealing with all this stuff with like the M&R stuff with like the digital squeegee and like the the hybrid stuff, and I was the same way. Like I was always like, I'm never getting into DTG. I don't love it. I don't like the quality or whatever. And then you see it and you're like, fuck, this actually isn't that bad. Especially with the hybrid too, because it's like the underbase is like in the shirt, so that's the hard part, and then you're just putting the colors on top, and you're like, damn, this looks good. So that's what I mean. The only reason why I think I would get into DTG is for fulfillment purposes. I don't know if I would put it on my website. It's like, we do DTG. It's like, I would just rather like
slippery slope though. Once you got it, I bet it works its way quickly. The thing. It's like, there it is.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, is I feel like it's getting so close that it's kind of like you have to at some point give in to realize that it's just a tool in your tool belt, not a replacement for screen printing.
Sort of. Now, there's a couple kinds of DTGs though. So there's a DTG that's like the mid-level, whatever, like the Brothers and the Epsons, and then there's the DTG you're talking about,
like the Corneats and that. Yeah,
the Corneats, yeah. And so those are 250, 300,000, right?
Yeah, I'm not getting
easily. There are a lot of them even higher, yeah,
right, or even higher. And so now, so there's 2 kinds of DTGs, and also you just mentioned the shirt. Oh, you might for this grandma picture of your grandma, and she wants 15 shirts or whatever. What most people don't get, because we had a DTG, we had the brother. And so what most people don't get is there's going to be an hour minimum of artwork going into making, getting the photo right. They're going to have it on their phone. They're going to give it to you. They're going to get it just right. And there's going to be maybe some words to it or whatever you're going to do. Then you get it over to the DTG and you're going to have to do some test prints because the first one doesn't look so hot and you have to adjust the colors or whatever you've got to do. And then it's not always 15 shirts. Maybe that's going to be your minimum, but it seems like if you have a DTG, I'll do 1 or I'll do 3 or 5 or whatever. And so you spend all this time and what are you going to charge? Because most people don't want to pay more than $20, $25 for a shirt. And so next thing you know, you're sold 3 shirts for $20 and maybe you're getting $60 or $75. And you've spent that much on ink, on test prints, on artwork and everything else. And so I say as far as the business model of anything under 5 shirts with a DTG, forget it because people don't want to pay it. And unless you're going to the Maverick and you have this crazy fulfillment where like you're talking about, Matt, at Second City or wherever, and you're doing this a ton of shirts for bands and it's a ton of colors. And it makes sense. And you can get this, you can get the Maverick at the Cornette and have it justify that expense. Then I think it works. But having just the affordable DTG is, I don't know that there's any money there ever. I mean, it's a really tough gig. And so
I think the thing is though, is it's kind of like, well, I know like in my specific niche where I'm dealing with, it's say like the comedians or whatever, like they'll do a podcast or whatever, and they'll come up with a joke or a saying or something that all the fans pick up on. Like Tom Score or whatever will do the one where he did that dude's face or whatever, and he used it as a fundraiser. And it's like, obviously that print was digital and it was like a joke thing. It was fast. Like they knew that they had to get it out immediately to sell or whatever. And it's just stuff like that where it's like almost always it's like a photo, like a straight up photo. Like, yeah, we could print it. We could do it as like a 14 color print. But it's like, do we want to set up a 14 color print every week, or do we want to do digital, like, 100 shirts?
Okay. So how about this? Find somebody that has a DTG by you and contract to them.
I don't want to contract shit.
I mean, I'm with Andy in this one a little bit. That makes the most sense, just for the landscape that you're currently in. But I mean, it's also changing so much. Like we just talked about how like 4 years ago, a DDG print felt like shit. It was sandpaper. Yeah. Now it's starting to get better. Like,
well, that's the thing for me. It's always been the whites. Like the whites have always been dog shit, and now it's like they're getting decent whites. And that's what we were talking about with Cotton Factory. Is they were like, the whites were always bad, and then their machine always was bad. And now the new printer that they got, like, I don't remember what he said, but he said it like auto turned on and like, ran white through the machine. So
have
it
you
never
ever
clogged up.
pre-treated a shirt?
Well, that's the thing is you don't have to pre-treat them anymore. You can buy them already
pre-treated,
ready to go.
And that makes a big difference because it sucks pre-treating a shirt.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. That's the only reason why I would do it. Like before, a couple of years ago, we thought about it and then I like researched it. I was like, you have to fucking like, people are buying like Wagner sprayers and like spraying shirts with like pre-treat and shit. I was like, that looks terrible. And now you can go to like Bella or whatever and buy like a DTG black shirt or whatever. And then
I've been hearing most of the major brands are already looking at either doing it with the finished product or even earlier in the manufacturing line with the fabric and getting it pre-treated. And you just have to heat press it to reactivate the pre-treat.
You should do it, Dylan. And I'm going to put $1,000 on you sell it within a year, and then I make $1,000 back of the $1,000 you're bidding.
Dylan, I'll help you succeed. Split the profits with me. We'll make sure.
See,
Andy, you're wrong. Hey. We got this. Teaming up. We're going to make it work.
Right here.
We're getting the money.
I got the market and Matt's got the brain, so we're going to fucking stomp you out.
All right. Well, when it goes into repo,
but if we lose, he pays the $1,000. I don't split the loss with him. I'm just splitting the wins, just making sure that's clear.
Upside. It's all upside.
That's part of the consulting.
All upside. Yeah, exactly.
Consulting fee.
That's the sales in me coming in. It's like, hang on, no, wait. No, I think it'll be different though too. I'm seeing these. I can't think of the name of it right now, but there's Raw Tech in Australia, right? And you've seen those guys. Yeah. They're working with the Zeus, right? I don't know much about it. I saw it at Long Beach this year when they were still doing shows. I hated what they showed me. It looked like hot garbage. But I've seen some pretty impressive prints, not at the show, elsewhere, especially like on Instagram. And this little thing's a lot more affordable and can go on a manual press, right? So it's a hybrid that can go on a manual press. I think once we get into the world where that's actually achievable and good,
100%,
then this changes the entire marketplace, right? We can do these 1, 2, 3 because we don't have to make 1 or 2 screens on a manual press, your underlay, your top, and realistically, it's the same screen, just burnt twice, right? Underbase, top coat, same exact image, and you can quickly digital, and maybe it runs slow. Maybe it takes 2 minutes to do a shirt. Well, you pay one guy to sit there and knock them out 2 minutes at a time to do a shirt, full color. Well, then fulfillment becomes a lot more affordable, a lot easier. Your physical landscape can be a lot smaller, and the quality is now a lot more repeatable.
Does that machine also go on auto?
Yeah.
Or is it just manual?
It goes on. It's meant to be on an auto, but I saw us on Raw Tech's website or on their Instagram. They put some on the manuals. I'm like, ooh, that's a pricey manual setup.
How much
at the same time, I want to say they're at like the $50,000 price point. Right? Don't quote me on that. I'm not exactly sure, but I want to spend $50,000.
I was talking to somebody in the industry, and I won't name names or whatever, but they were saying, because I asked them about that thing, I was like, well, that thing looks pretty cool, but like, I don't know where it's at quality wise with some of this other stuff. And they were like, yeah, it works, but the inks smell like shit. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, the inks in it, like you said, they just smell like hot garbage. Like they stink. They're like gross inks. And I was like,
and until you put it through the dryer? And then
I don't know. I'm not an expert in any means on those things, but they say like certain cheaper, the inks just smell like shit. I was like, you don't want to scratch and sniff that ink.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't want to talk shit about anything because I don't personally.
So now digital prints look like shit and smell like shit. So in public, you can tell how much they spent for their shirt.
It's a trade-off. Like you either can look like shit or smell like shit. So
choose what will it be, and what's the price point for it? No, but realistically though, there's going to be it's going to evolve, right? The digital squeegee is one of the first real big incarnations of this hybrid printing. Yeah. It's going to continue to evolve. It's going to get smaller, more compact, and more affordable. How long that takes, I don't know. But I think that is going to be the big pivot when it comes to shop on demand. I mean, we're used to this whole Amazon world. So shop on demand and this ability to then go online, design a shirt, and have it still be a hybrid screen print that feels good and looks good. And we don't have to either go make 9 screens or spend an hour on a Photoshop file on a low-res JPEG to make sure grandma's picture looks good, right? Yeah. It melds both.
So I think that's, if anything, I mean, you have the Gauntlet, you have the 3 Series,
Well, so that's the reason why I got it. That's the reason why I got it.
Yeah, who cares about DTG? It's hybrid. Go do the digital squeegee.
Right. But I'm saying if you can go buy an Epson for like 20 grand to just like fuck around with, then I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I'm just saying it's in my brain as like an owner of like, maybe I should research this and not just fucking pass it aside and just be like, hey, was this actually a usable tool?
Don't listen to my opinion. But so, yeah.
I never do.
You can go research it. Yeah, see what you find out.
That's what I'm saying. I want to research it. I want to talk to other people that have it and just see. And if it works, it works.
But if we look at the broad scale of this, though, like it's awesome for the shops that can afford to have a Series 3. It's awesome for the shops that can afford to have a digital squeegee. Right. And the quality and the work is going to be shown there. But if we can hit in the next like 2 years where Sound and Fury or any other smaller shop can just throw a small hybrid printer on their existing manual and knock it out, that's where it gets exciting. That's where the world is a lot more fun. The big shop's still going to have the big infrastructure, quick spin, like let's get 700 of these done an hour. Right. Those shops are going to exist and be totally fine. But the smaller shops can now actually be competitive in that landscape, and fulfillment and the whole on-demand world of this gets way more awesome, I think.
Well, it's the thing with M&R too that like a lot of people don't think about, and I didn't even think about this until they started talking to me about it, but it's like you think, oh, another thing I have to buy, and yeah, it's expensive because it just came out and they're still figuring shit out, and it's, it's like the demand and all this other stuff. But like when the digital squeegee gets down into the range of like, it's like buying another press and not like buying 5 presses, then it's like it's definitely a game changer. Right now, the huge companies that can afford it are getting it, but it's kind of like the way they described it to me was like, okay, yeah, you can do digital and it looks great and all this other stuff, but it's like think of the shops like we do a lot of it where you're doing a lot of like high color count simulated process stuff. It's like, all right, you're using 10, 12 screens. Your art guy's taking a long time to do all these steps, and then you have to mix 10, 12 inks and all this other stuff. It's like with digital, you're making maybe 2-3 screens of whites and the clear and whatever else, and then it's digital everything else. So like your screen count goes way down, way less screens to clean and make and all this other stuff.
And if you don't hit it, like we just did a job with that was a 7-color job, and we didn't hit it the first time, and so we had to scratch, I think, 3 of the screens or 4, and then mix 3 new colors.
Right.
Well,
Down press time on that.
And
you don't have to do that.
With the digital squeegee, if it's not right, you just adjust it and try another test.
Right, you hit print again.
Yep, you go into Photoshop, you pull the channel back, you curve whatever, and you go.
Like realistically, all you're making on a digital print is you're making the underbase screen, and then you're letting the rest just fly. And it's fucking.
So that's
now we are dumbing this down. There's it takes a little bit more time than this, but it's the payoff is there. I mean, Second City did buy a digital squeegee. They got 2 Series 3. 1820s, like giant presses. There's going to be no problem to put a digital squeegee on there. I'm excited to go in there and help them out with making all that happen. But exactly that. That was when we talked about the ROI. It's okay. We've got one person all day mixing inks all day because we're doing a lot of these. The biggest press they had can only fit 8 colors. But they're back-to-back 8-color jobs all day long. And they would look better at 12 or 14 colors. They'd look even better hybrid. So, and then we have 2 or 3 screens as opposed to having to save 8 screens, 9 screens, 10 screens. We save 3 that are water-based ink. You hit them with water, you vacuum it off, they go on the rack. They're easier to use next time, too, than the cold plastic ink that they didn't scrape off enough last time you ran the job.
What was the thinking behind an 1820 if you're going to put a digital squeegee on it? Are you trying to give yourself options? Or because if you have a digital squeegee, isn't 14? I think, Dylan, yours is a 14, right?
Mm-hmm. So you lose 4 for the digital squeegee.
Okay.
Then you have flashes.
Why do you lose 4 again?
3 really.
Well, the thing's massive.
3 is what you fully take off. Yeah, you lose 3 print heads for 3 to go in there.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then you want to have a flash next to it, right? So there's 4.
Okay.
And
cooldowns.
And cooldowns. So it's pretty easy to run out of space. And if you want to do a special effect, or you're working with a corporate client that's like, hey, it has to be one solid Pantone. It hits Pantones pretty damn close. But if you want it to be like the Verizon orange, like just screen print the Verizon orange then, right? So the ability to do multiple options, or to be able to be in the middle of a run and say, yep, go back to the Photoshop file. It doesn't look right. Throw up a job on press, keep it running while they work the file. You can now do a 2-3 color job on that same press without tearing anything else down, right? Just card your ink out, leave it flooded, put your humidifier on it.
Well, it's the other thing too, like we were thinking about when we got ours is just like efficiency. Like if you're spending the money and the time to get a digital squeegee and all this other stuff to save seconds and stuff for all these runs, it's like if you get a bigger press, then you're almost always guaranteed to knock everything out in one spin. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like if you were like, oh, let's get a 14, but this thing needs like 3 flashes and it needs all these cooldowns. You're like, now you're looking at, okay, 2-3 spins. And then you're back to being like, shit, I should have brought that bigger press because now I'm losing time and spins.
It's expensive, but if you price out a 14 color and then you go from 14 to 18, that's not that big of a gap. It's from 0 to 18, right? That's a giant. So when you already start getting in there, the value add on, it's easy to fall into the trap of, okay, what's another 40,000, right? But it's also easier with somebody else's money.
It's one of the great things about a heads down press, like the Gauntlet or the Cobra that we have, that we didn't. There was a bonus that I didn't.
Oh, you're calling it the new official name. You're now officially on the. It's called the Cobra.
Well, Randy,
it was hard, really, honestly, but I think I've got it.
What does the press say though? Does it say Cobra on the side of it?
Actually, it says. Actually, there's a stencil cut out of the metal that says Sportsman 12C EV, but on the control panel it says Rebel. And then Jimmy's coming down tomorrow, and he said that he's gonna bring me a Cobra panel. But I was like, I don't know, like it'd be better not to
have the only one. So. The OG.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But
just tell Jimmy I said to leave it. He'll listen.
Yeah.
But one of the side, like a bonus of having a heads down press is that, like you just said, you're gonna leave a job up. Well, before on this, like on both of our Sportsmans, we have to tape off the bottom of the screen. Well, with the heads down
wouldn't
press,
touch. Yep.
Wouldn't touch. Heads down press. You can you're indexing, and the shirt goes to that whatever head. It doesn't matter because it's not touching the screen ever. The screen goes down to touch the shirt or the hoodie or whatever. So huge bonus. You're right. You can leave a job up and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're not going to screw up a shirt.
Yeah,
We've
but
definitely done that.
Yeah.
I think everyone has, for sure.
Like hoodies or something.
Oh yeah, it's the worst. And you see them like 10 or 15 later, and you're like, oh fuck. But
exactly.
It's a bonus. Yeah, when I'm calling it the Cobra. In fact, I made they're having a webcast on Wednesday. Are you signed up for that?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll actually watch it, but
Well, you better watch it.
It depends. I'm working the new job at Printavo. I don't know what my days are exactly,
yeah.
so I got a lot going on.
That was the thing too. Tom asked me to do it too, so I was going to talk to you after this. And I was going to be like, "Why don't we just make it a fucking shirt show?" Basically, it's going to be me and you anyway.
Yeah, let's do it. But and so
we'll just promote the shit out of the show.
Now I'm gonna have to watch it. So
right,
you got me.
See, yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's do it. Shirt show, Cobra Press special.
I'm still on the fence about the name Cobra. I'm behind why they changed it. I dig it. I'm glad they changed it for the optics on that, but I don't know about Cobra. I think about Cobra Kai, and now I think they're the bad guys in Karate Kid, and I'm like, damn it, M&R, you be the good guys.
I feel like you can't win with a name. Like, what else would they have named it? You know what I mean? Like, you think of names like Cobra, and you're like, oh, it's kind of cheesy or whatever. But it's like, literally, what else would? What else is there?
Yeah,
and it's like, I don't know. I just feel like they could have named it something else horrible. But it's also whose job is it to sit there and be like, what am I going to call this? What am I going to call this? And they're like, Cobra. It's just like, all right. I mean, it is what it is.
I guess they went after it's the Diamondback, and so they're thinking snakes or something, and vipers.
Well, it's like the Flashes are all like chilies, and
the presses used to be cars. There was the Challenger, that they always went after the cars. So
that was probably a Rich thing though, because Rich was a rich cars and trucks and stuff.
You like the Flash names?
Me?
I mean, they make sense, but at the same time, I'm like, oh god.
Oh, I do. I like it, and they're red.
Yeah. I mean, the good point is like, what else do you name? It's easy to be a critic. It's hard to be like, let me name this. But yeah. But anyways, I think it'll be when the hybrid does go down that small and gets a lot more affordable. That's what I'm looking forward to do. So M&R, work on that.
So let's promote the shit out of your consulting. What all are you going to consult and offer?
Anything. No, obviously screen printing stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've got a website that I will be able to work on again. This is the last 7 months, clearly doing like the 75, 80 hours a week. So there's no time for much. But yeah, screenprintnerd.com. Redirects to marcotte.ink. You can go to either one. And I'm just trying to get information on there, some free downloadable template type stuff. Just trying to work with shops and workflow. I mean, I've been lucky enough to work with a handful of shops and do consulting, and a lot of the job I think really is the 101 type stuff, right? So making sure you actually understand the variables of what you're doing, why you're doing them, and how to control the variables. Too many print shops are like, yeah, the screen didn't work, so I did this, and it worked. It's like, cool, what was broken? One of those 5 things, but you don't know how to repeat it. So getting them to understand the variables in that, but also just getting them excited. A lot of the shops are kind of stuck in their shop only. They don't watch good podcasts. They don't read stuff. They don't go to shows. They lose excitement. And that usually ends up going down into their employees too, and then to their customers. So a lot of it is just kind of being a hype man for getting excited about learning what they're doing and why. So getting them to feel like they're an artist or a scientist in their own laboratory and working on those things to get better. And usually if you can get somebody to nerd out about actually figuring out your EOM percentage, they're going to do fine. Right. So it's a lot of just having fun, getting them to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, how it affects every little process. And now I'm learning a shit ton that I didn't know when it comes to like the Printavo side. I've always been pretty tactile. I've been pretty good at like the in-shop stuff. I had never run a Zapier before, right? So now I'm learning all this stuff through Printavo, and they're like, oh yeah, do this. I'm like, oh shit, okay. And so now I'm learning a lot more on the automation side, where that was possibly the one side that I was the most ignorant on.
Did Steven teach that class, the Zap class?
I did watch a lot of Steve. I actually sent Steve a video, a screenshot. I'm like, I'm getting paid to watch videos that you're giving. And he's like, why? But I mean, actually a lot of it was actually their customer success team they already have. So I've shadowed a couple of the calls, and she's just quickly going through and saying, like, whoa, what are you doing? Going into the DNS settings on their page and stuff. So it's learning a lot that I was blissfully ignorant to, but it's a lot more fun knowing that side too. So when I can go into shops and help consult, I can do the tactile stuff. I can work with them in their shop, on their shop. And now I can also help them out with Printavo, which I had been doing in my T&J days. The shop wasn't running a shop management software. I was like, guys, get on Printavo. And I was already kind of doing free implementation for a lot of these smaller shops in Chicagoland anyway. So, but to answer your question, Dylan, yeah, I mean, anybody needs anything when it comes to having somebody to call and ask a question about, or you want to have me come out to your shop and work with you for Printavo or not for Printavo, let me know.
You need to document that, like video. You need to have somebody follow you and record it. It'd be like sort of like bar rescue, only shirt rescue. So you show up and you're like,
my old boss, Stevie from Second City, said the same thing. It's like, I want to put you on a TV show.
It's like that kitchen nightmares, but make it print nightmares.
Yeah.
Like you go in there and you act like you pose as a customer, and then you go through the whole rigmarole, and then you come out and you're like, all of a sudden you just freak out, and you start yelling at people,
throwing shit Gordon Ramsay on them. I'm in. I think that should be another podcast we'll have to do. So
this ink is expired, and then like smash it on the ground. That's your catchphrase.
That's awesome. Undercured. Throw it.
So let me ask you, now that you're a free agent, because it's something I'm actually dealing with right now, and me and Andy have been fucking going back and forth on it too, is like, what's your opinion on, your personal opinion, no sales, no nothing involved, on screens? Because right now there's like always been the fight over Newmans, and then now there's like the Sherlocks, and then there's all these other ones, and then there's just regular old fucking statics you buy for $25, and then there's the fancy pants ones that Andy's trying to get me to get with hydro, and then all this block out and caulking and all this other stuff. Like, in your opinion, if you were just to run a shop and you had to pick, what would you pick and why?
Couple pretty simple rules. They're all good, right, in their own way. One, the block out permanently, only if you have what Andy has, which is an automatic reclaimer. If you got a guy back there with a pressure washer, do not do that, because you're going to cover them in water spray back the entire day. Because they have to rinse it out, and that corner's now caulked off. You're blasting water back.
Well, the problem, like me and Andy were talking about, me and Andy, yeah.
I told you not to get the block out.
Dude, I didn't.
All right. Just saying. Okay,
all right. First of all, fuck you. Second of all, the only reason why I got it was to one up you, and then you kicked me in the balls and said that you tried it and didn't like it, so then I failed it one-upping you.
On the Ecotex, it's not too bad.
The problem is
ketchup still in the corner, though. Can't rinse full.
All jokes aside, the problem is, like Andy told me, and I've heard it from other people too, is the fact of like when you're coating the screen, say you're using a Unicode or whatever, and you get that little bead of emulsion that covers the block out, it doesn't expose the same, and then you end up with like sliminess or whatever with that bead of emulsion.
It doesn't expose normally on the ink side, the squeegee side. So when your lights,
it's not going through. It's not permeating.
It's not going through the glue or the block out, I should say.
And you don't want to up the exposure time, because then you're going to fuck with your actual print.
I don't think that matters. I always recommend that if you have the Unicode, you still have a scrape card, you scrape the access off really quick anyways.
We do that too.
I think that's is it a problem? Sure. Is it one that matters? Not in my books. I think that's a whatever. They're going to have a scrape bead at the top. They have to scrape off anyways. So yeah, they're going to spend an extra 2 seconds doing that, which sure, we can get into the math of how much that adds up to be, but it's probably only an hour or two a year.
I don't care. Yeah. I don't care about the time. I'm more concerned with just the actual screen at the end.
When I sold tape for a living, I hated the stuff. When I'm not selling tape for a living, I think if you've got an automatic reclaimer and you can do a quick touch up on it, it's fine. Do I think it's really, really, really worth it? I don't. When it comes to the static versus the Newman, it's perfect for expensive or good enough for affordable. So there's no doubt that a Newman that you're hand stretching and you're getting to be perfect is going to be a superior screen. It's going to be. But do you need to have perfection just to get from A to B? You usually don't. You're going to have a damn good print off of a pre-stretched static that's good enough. Now, if we're going to try to go win an award, we should probably go ahead and
get
like a 30 tension screen and lay down But for most of the stuff, the 1, 2, 3 color stuff, they're not going to give a shit.
But that's my thing is like that I'm struggling with as like personally with trying to figure out what I want to do for my shop is for years we've used just like the standard statics, whatever, but like we're not using them for like 3 years. We're using them like buy them brand new, use them for a little while until we start to notice shit happening. And then we toss them and we buy new ones. So it's like, they work good. Like we're definitely getting good prints. We're making good prints. Everything's fine. But there's the little things that like as a perfectionist of a printer, you're looking at of like, could I get a better white out of this? Or could I get, better wet on wet?
So going into the Hydra mesh, like you're talking about, I think that's where that matters. If I'm going to spend time and energy and money on something, it's for me, not going to be Newman rollers unless I'm trying to win an award. Then I'll have a handful of those for those screens, right? But I would definitely look at your white screens being either there's a Hydra mesh or smart mesh, a thinner diameter mesh.
Right.
Without a doubt.
That's what I'm looking at right now. But I'm wondering if I should go with the Sherlocks to save on keeping the screens here. And then anytime I need to order mesh, I just order mesh and I'm not shipping back and forth a shitload of screens and shipping and everything else. Or do I just go like Andy and buy a pallet of 100 and whatever screens every time I need screens? I'm like I said, I'm literally at the point where I'm just doing the research myself, trying to figure out what I want to do. And there's actually a buddy of mine who has a shop, I won't name names either, that was selling a shitload of Sherlocks because he's getting into something else. And I'm just like,
the one thing that's nice about statics too is that if it's wrong, you bitch about it to whoever did it and they have to redo their work. Where if you're getting Sherlock panels or you're doing your own stretching in-house, you're paying somebody to do it. You might pay them to do it wrong, then you're paying them to do it again. Where if I sent out 100 screens to go get stretched and I get them back a couple weeks later, you're damn right. The first thing I'm having the screen guy do is put a tension meter on every single one. And if it comes out wrong, I draft an email like, yo, these 4 screens are garbage. Do it again. And I'm not paying for that to get done. I'm paying once for the job to be done right. Where if you're going to be doing your stretching in-house, you might pay them to do it again, right? So it all depends on what you want to do. Now, if you have a local person that can stretch for you, it's a lot more affordable than having to get 100 frames shipped. So for you, I might argue that the panels make the most sense. When I was in Second City, I had a guy 25 minutes away that is one of the best in the Midwest that would come pick them up for me and drop them off for me. So I had location as an added benefit.
Does his name begin with an F?
It does.
Well, that's who I'm talking. I'm talking about the F guy too.
Yeah,
he's the best. And Frank.
Yeah.
But
what else would it have been?
Frank's good people. He's good people. Yeah.
He's good people. And I think that if you're going to commit to a roller or the Sherlocks, that definitely more so the roller, that you're going to have to commit a lot of time to it, and you're going to have somebody that's going to
that's the
really
thing that
watch those frames, because when you're up in the super high tension, those and you get that and they're tight, then after you print 1,000 shirts, whatever, you always have to watch to make sure it hasn't dropped, because you don't want to set up a 5 color and then have tensions all over the place. And
you tension it twice to begin with. You got to tension it all the way up, let it sit overnight, at least, and then ideally 24 to 48 hours.
Well, that's the reason.
And then redo it again.
That's the reason I didn't want to go with the Newmans, is just because of like the whole, rigmarole. Like you said, like if you were going to be doing like crazy detailed prints for like fucking some huge thing, then I'd be like, yeah, let's do that. But like I'm talking the day to day. Like, yeah, we do a lot of really cool detailed prints, but like there's also, for every one of those, there's fucking 900 like 3 color or 1 color prints. It's like, do I need to be using this like $200 screen on Joe's Plumbing?
You don't. And that's why maybe you do both. You figure out the ones that you do want to submit to a show, or the customer, you're like, this is like a crazy sim process. Let's get some Newmans, let's get some panels, whatever you got to do, and knock those out. But I completely agree. It's for most of the jobs, you don't need it. So don't go overkill on it. I would definitely, like you said, recommend switching your underbases, like get rid of your 110s, go to like a 135 S mesh or whatever, the Hydra mesh, thinner thread diameter that can lay down a smoother print. And then the rest of them, standard. They pop too easy when they're thin. I have seen too many shops commit to all thin thread mesh. You start running 305 thin threads, you're going to double the amount that are popping in the same amount of time. So that's another thing. A lot more expensive too.
That's the other thing I was talking to Andy about. What my main concern when we first started talking was almost everybody I've talked to is like, yeah, when I switch to thin thread, I'm fucking cleaning screens with like a a sham wow instead of a fucking thing because they're like, I'm busting them all the time. But like Andy made a good point. I'm not ragging on you at all. Is that you were like, once you get used to how you have to handle them, you're not popping screens as often, which makes total sense.
You have to have a delicate, soft touch. Dylan.
Right, just like you have.
Just go manhandling stuff, okay?
Look at me. I'm a fucking gorilla. Look at you. You probably fucking moisturize your hands 3 times a day.
You got a little
soft touch Andy.
Lotion on.
Soft touch Andy over
Just
here.
listen to his voice.
Hey, I tried to sound tougher today. I told you before I was warming up.
He told me before you even got on here, he's like, I'm a new Andy. I'm an asshole. I'm assertive. And I was like, yes, you are.
And then he said he liked
You're doing great. You're doing great.
So
but anyway, long story short, they all work good. And
I love Newmans. I will tell you that you will not get a better screen than if you spend the time on a Newman roller. You won't get a better screen. But what is it worth and what does it cost to get there, right? You buy a bolt of mesh, you spend the time, you do all the work. For what outcome? If you're trying to win shows, if you're the crazy guys in Russia that are printing like that crazy 3D stacked, like bridged over stuff, of course it's all on Newmans or their homemade Newmans with telephone poles at the edges. I don't know, right? But for what we're doing,
so
a static frame is going to do it.
We have statics. All of them are thin thread or they are the hydros. And they're all made by the guy whose first name begins with the letter F. And I'll tell you, and I'll tell you that, and none of them are, but our highest mesh count's 230 because we found that we didn't need to go higher than that once we had thin thread. But I think that we can come pretty close to the look and the feel of a roller.
Copy. Sorry.
I've seen it with my own eyes. We zero double stroke anymore. It's everything single. And it took a while though. It took a while because when you start coating thin threads, your EOM.
But you're not over 230. Is your LPI just parked at 45, 55? What is your output?
We can do 55 because the calculations are all, everything changes on thin thread. And so it's fat. I mean, I know people doing 45 on like 158s. And so thin thread's a whole different beast, and it takes a little while to get used to it and not to tear it. And
I don't know if I could ever get rid of 305s.
I don't ever use 305s either.
Or at least get rid of 280s.
No, he said he can never get rid of.
I can never get rid of 305s.
Not to get rid of them.
I would have to use 305s.
305 standard.
Yeah.
See, but how does that compare to a 230 thin? And so that's what's I think really interesting about.
I want to look more at. I mean, I've played with 230 thin, but at the same time, like when I'm doing a sim process job and I'm looking at 12, 13, 14 color screens, I have to do a lot of my time. Like I want to go with that 305. I mean, I'm with you on 55 LPI. I think that a lot of people go 65, 75, and they shouldn't. And you degrade down, right? You burn 75, maybe you're hitting 65 on your screen. Once you hit the garment, you're dropped down anyways. So you're chasing a goal that's unattainable. So I believe in 55 usually being the better output for high resolution stuff. But I'm not sure if I'm with you on dropping anything higher than 230 yet. I mean, I gotta come check out the work in person.
All right.
That's what he's trying to do. He's just trying to lure you into his shop to hire you.
Sorry, Bruce.
I'm a bicycle for the print shops. Just throw me around, guys.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Is my biggest concern wasn't necessarily the colors and stuff and the prints. Like I said, we have pretty good prints and I'm proud of, but it's just more like
there's nobody closer than Frank that'll stretch for you. There's got to be somebody up there.
There are other people, but like like again, I'm not going to name names, but we just ordered a fucking bunch of screens. I try to order screens somewhat regularly. Like I said, it's like maybe every other 5 gallon of white we order, I'll order like 6 to 12 screens just to like throw into the rotation. Anyway, we ordered a dozen 230s, got them, opened the box. 3 of them were already popped, like already blown out. And I was like, all right, well, that sucks. Write it down. Like you said, email them, be like, hey, these were fucking ripped, whatever. And then fucking Bill took the rest of the screens, the whatever 9 more, put them in the washout to do like a, whatever. And the fucking screens all had designs in them. They were used screens.
Yeah,
They had ghosting of other fucking designs in them, and I was like, all right.
So why
get him in touch with Frank. Frank will cut.
That's what I did.
Frank will cut him a deal.
Frank, I haven't had any other run-in with Frank other than that first initial call when Andy referred me to Frank. Mm-hmm. So, and we've talked a lot about Frank. We should at least say what the company is, and if anybody wants to talk to a master screen maker,
Graphic Screen Fashion.
Yep.
GSF. So here's the thing. Like, I know you don't want to listen to me on my thoughts on how
I
good
want
it is
to listen.
So here's what we need to do. We need to have Frank on our podcast. And then maybe he can convince you.
But that's the problem.
Who fucking cares if it's in Chicago or not? So what? So you order a pallet and it takes an extra day?
I know.
You need to overnight screen.
I mean, the other option. I mean, I think you should go to Andy. The other go with Frank. The other option you could do though is you could also buy the stretching table. I mean, you have to do the work that way, but all he's got is stretching tables that pull them out. They are pricey, but you can do it locally. Then
my problem is. And it's just probably me and the way I was like raised and stuff isn't necessarily the fact that like I bet Frank is fucking amazing and he probably makes amazing screens, totally works for Andy. But when we talk to Frank, he is going to 100% support Frank. He's going to talk about his screens are the best screens to use. Blah, 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 blah. I'm talking to Matt, who's fucking been around the block and knows like, okay, like this one works for here, this one works for here, and that's fine. And the answer you gave me was great, is that like maybe you should use this for whites and you should use, this and whatever. Like that's fine. And like I said, the screens from Frank, I got some. He sent me the samples. We haven't coded them yet. We're going to code them tomorrow and test them. My thing is what I want to do is I want to get a 3-color print. And I want to use our normal screens. I want to use Frank's screens, and I want to use the Sherlock's, and I want to do the same job on all 3 screens.
Good, yeah.
And then I'm going to look at them and make my own conclusions. But that's the thing is like,
and you're not going to notice much difference at all on any of them, I promise you.
Right, but my thing is, it's more the thing I mainly want to look at is the white. I want to do one hit. I want to do it this pressure. Right, but that's my thing is if I notice, then I'm like, okay, that's the one I want to go with. Like I said, I don't know if I want to do it for every screen I have. I just want to be like, okay, here's a rack of screens that I'm going to use just for white or just for underrated.
That's how I do it here at Sound and Fury. It's how I recommend doing it. It's how I was doing it at Second City. Is you got your standards for everything except for your whites. You want to put those on thin threads. That I agree with completely.
Let me solve all of your issues right now.
All of your life problems. Yeah, Soft touch, Andy. Take it away.
I'm going to make this easy for you. Buy a DTG machine, two of them, and then go get some Newman rollers.
I think what you should have said is sell the business, work at home in my underwear, and contract everything to Shirt Going.
Hey, there's that too.
That's an option. That is an option.
I like Matt's plan. He's fucking working from home, playing with kids and shit.
You don't know I'm wearing pants right now.
Right, exactly.
You don't know.
Right. And I'm thinking about
now pants. You're thinking about it though.
Right. I'm like, how much ass sweat does he have in that chair, though?
Matt, we're going to
how hot is it in that shop?
You don't want that.
Oh, God. Well, I think that's a good place to end.
Is Matt wearing pants? Perfect.
Is Matt wearing pants? So what was your website, Matt, that people should check out other than Printavo? Everybody knows about Printavo.
Screenprintnerd.com, or you can just go to marcotte.ink. Okay. And you can email me at matt@marcotte, MARCOTTE.INK.
Which is funny because like on my podcast, I talked to Ryan from Ryanet, obviously, and he was telling me that
I don't know who that is.
I don't know. You look him, Google him. But anyway, he was talking about where they are in Washington or whatever, there's another distributor near there or whatever. They made a website called fuckryanet.com.
That's amazing. That's right. Amazing.
So now I need to make a fuckmattmarcotte.com website.
What's going to be the content?
And then when you go there, the landing page is going to say, is he wearing pants?
You find out if I'm wearing pants or not. That's the landing page.
Fuckmattmarcotte.com, and then you find out if he has pants on. And if he doesn't have pants on, you pay $10 like an OnlyFans, and you get to see what Matt's wearing.
There you go. I think I got a new revenue stream. More passive income. Love it. Let's do this.
I'm down.
Well, thanks for coming on, and glad it worked out this time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's an absolute. Yes, I had to find the old Beats by Dre, but they worked.
All right, take care, man.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See, I'm still trying to figure this out.
I'm standing up slowly. You're gonna.